We left off here on Friday, so it's point slope form. So y equals y1, or y minus y1 equals m parenthesis x minus x1. So on Friday, all we did to start was just plug in points. So we replaced y1 and x1 with our two values here and here. Remember, the negative signs are always a part of the formula, which means whenever we are working on the equation, the minus signs kind of stick with it and we replace these. So right here we had a double negative and that in turn changes to positive. You can change it as you go, or you can wait till the end and then kind of finish it off. So we left off just by going over example 2 and 3. So number 2, you do not have to write minus 0. So if you ever have something that has minus 0, you just don't have to write it. So we can just leave it as y plus 3 equals negative 1/2 x. You don't have to put the minus sign, and you can take the x out of parentheses as well. For number 3, again, we change the double negative here. So here's our y1 value. So it changes here to negative 2, which makes it plus. Okay. So remember, x and y are always the part of your problem. We substitute out x1 and y1. So regular x and regular y, they kind of stay the same. So on this next part, our goal is to just identify the slope and the point in each equation. So this is already in point slope form. What we're going to do is try to get it back to this place, which is identifying what the point and what the slope is. So let's start with slope. What is our slope for our equation? What's our slope?
1/2.
Good, 1/2. So right here, slope, remember, is in front of the parentheses, just like in the problem up here. Here's your formula. So our slope value is always in front of our parenthesis. So our slope is just 1/2. Our slope is just 1/2. The slope is pretty easy to find because it's just right in front of the parentheses. Whenever we get to graphing, which we will practice some graphing, whenever we get to graphing, it's going to be in your best interest to kind of rewrite this with slope and the point and then go from there. So what's our point value? What's our point? What's our x1 value?
3.
You're close. It's not negative 3 because remember our equation is always negative. This is where it gets tricky. It's just 3. So whenever you're working with the point, okay, whenever you have the point, you want to do the opposite of what it looks like. Because look here, right here we plugged in positive 6, but it looks negative in the equation. So when you're pulling the point out, you want the opposite point or opposite sign of what the point is. So what is going to be here? What's our y1 value? What goes here? What's y1?
2.
Close.
2.
It's not just 2.
-2.
Negative 2. Remember, it's hard because our equation already has the minus sign in it. So if we look at this piece here, see how this looks like it's a positive 2, but we really plugged in a negative 2. So when you're pulling the point out, it's the opposite of what it looks like. The point is the opposite sign. Okay, let's try the next one. What's our slope? Yes, -11/2. So slope is going to look the exact same. We're not going to change our slope value. It's going to look exactly the same. So -11/2. Whatever the slope looks like, it's going to stay that way. It's not going to change. What is our point? -2, comma what?
Would it just be 1 because there's not a number in front of the?
What number
negative?
represents nothing?
0.
0. There you go. So the reason it's not a 1 is because we add and subtract the number. If we were multiplying, there would be just a 1 in front of y. But since the equation has plus in it or minus, you have to put like 0, not 1, because 1 actually is a number versus 0 being like a placeholder number. It's tricky. If we were solving it, you could put a 1 in front of here, but since it's addition, subtraction, it's got to be a 0. All right, take a second and try number 3. All right, so what is our slope? 3, good job. What's our point? -7, comma what? 1, good job. Remember, the hardest part of this is pulling the note or the points out and changing the sign of them because it's tricky because it's subtraction. That's the hardest part. So if you can remember, just flip the sign, opposite signs of your points, you'll be just fine. Okay? When we graph, which we will be graphing probably tomorrow, when we graph, you'll just be given an equation that looks like this, and you'll have to pull the point and the slope out in order to graph it. And so being able to do this is a good skill. All right, let's try the next set. The next set says, given point-slope form, write the equation in slope-intercept form. So what is slope-intercept form again? Slope-intercept form.
Y 1 minus y 2 minus y1.
That's slope, like just in general, like the slope of a line. Y equals mx plus b. So we have done this before where we had to solve for y and isolate our y value. That's exactly what we have to do here. So on this first problem, y plus 3 equals 2 parentheses x minus 4. What should we do first? Our goal is to solve for y. What should we do first? Do what? We want to get y by itself. What should we do over here? Yes, I would distribute. Good job. So what we're going to do is multiply inside of our parentheses to get those parentheses gone. We want them to disappear. So we have y plus 3 equals 2 times x, which is 2x. 2 times -4 is -8. Now we want to get y by itself because our parentheses are gone. We've kind of unleashed all of the stuff that was inside of our parentheses. So how do we get y alone? -3. What am I going to put -3 underneath on the right-hand side? Am I going to put it under 2x or -8? Yeah, -8. Good job. So then I have y equals, I'm going to just bring down 2x. Nothing's happening with 2x. What's -8 minus 3? -11. Good job. And now it's in slope-intercept form. So these equations, although they look different, they can look like each other. So all you have to do to get this equation to look like slope-intercept is just solve for y. Okay, let's try number 2. What should we do first? Distribute the half. Always want to get rid of those parentheses, which means the left-hand side stays where it is. So it's just y minus 3. 1/2 times x is 1/2 x. What's 1/2 times -6? -3. Good job. So now that we've gotten rid of parentheses, now what do we do?
We'll
Add 3. Good. So we'll add 3 here and here. So y equals, bring down 1/2. Okay. What else? Or with 1/2 x. What do I need to put after? What's -3 plus 3? 0. Do I have to write 0? Nope. So I'm finished. So all you're doing is isolating y. It's just solving an equation. Distributing and then either adding or subtracting. What about number 3? Do I have to distribute anything in 3? No. It's already done for me. So what's next? There you go, minus 21. So y equals x -28. There we go. So minus 28. So all you have to do on these problems is just isolate y. Same kind of math, distributing and just adding or subtracting. To kind of put it all together, we're going to do this last piece. Now, the last piece is going to be us finding the slope and using our equation. So our goal is, given these 2 points, we want to write an equation in point-slope form. The thing about these kinds of problems is there's 2 correct answers. It just depends on what point you want to use to plug into your problem. So you can have an equation using this point, or you can have an equation using this point. It would be the same answer, but you would just have different coordinates. So our goal here is to write it in point-slope form, which means I need a point and I need a slope in order to write the equation. Well, I have 2 points, so I'm good on the point part. Right? I've already got a point. I can pick either one of these. What I don't have is a slope. I need slope. So this is where we're going to use our slope formula. So step 1 is to find the slope of the 2 points. You got to do that first. I can't put anything in point-slope form if I don't have a slope. And in this case, it doesn't give me one. It just gives me points. Scroll down just a little. There you go. So I got to find the slope of the 2 points. What is my slope equation? It's got y1 in it. Y2 is first, then what? There you go. Where do I put the x2 and x1? On the bottom. Good. We're going to make a fraction. x2 minus x1. What should I do with my points? How do I know which one's x1, which one's y1? What should I do? I need the number next to it. So how do I label this set? How do I know what to plug in here? What should I do with these first?
Label them.
Label them. Good job. So I'm going to put x and y. What goes after both of those? Can't just label them x and y. What should I put? 1. Why do we put ones? What do the ones stand for?
Group 1.
Group 1. Good job. So that is my group 1. That makes this group 2. So what do we put with those x's and y's? 2's.
2.
Good. Remember, the 2's and 1's mean group 1, group 2. That's all they mean. It just keeps you organized. That's it. Okay, so let's review. Take a second and see if we can find the slope. Okay, so to calculate our slope, we've got 2 minus negative 2 over negative 1 minus 0. So what's the top going to be? Positive or negative 4? Positive 4, so 4 over what? Negative 1.
Negative 1.
Good, so we can write it like this, or how do we write it without that denominator? Because a 1 we don't need to write if it's a fraction.
Negative 4.
Yeah,
Negative
we can
4.
just leave it as negative 4. Both of those are correct. It's up to you how you want to write it. I would never, ever count you writing a number over 1 incorrect because it's not wrong. But just know that when it comes to simplifying, it can be simplified. So these are technically the same, but in a more simplified form, it would be shown like this. I just want you to be aware that even if it doesn't look like that, it would be simplified. So step 1 is to find the slope of the points. Now what we have, we've got our points already. Now we have our slope. Now we're ready to just put it into the equation. So step 2 is to pick a point.
Doesn't matter.
It does not matter. This is where I was saying how you'll have 2 answers depending on what point you pick. They're both correct because you can choose the first group or the second group. It's completely up to you. So which set do you want to pick? The first group, sure, it doesn't matter, okay? You don't always have to pick group 1, but since you all said group 1, I'm just going to box it in. So our point we've chosen is 0, negative 2. Again, you could pick either. That's where you have freedom in this problem. So you find the slope, pick your point. Step 3 is to substitute. So our formula for point slope form is y minus y1 equals m parenthesis x minus x1. We've got our point, we've got our slope, now we just substitute. Right? It's all math that you've done before. We spent a long time doing slope over and over. The reason we did slope is to do this and make it a lot easier. So I'm going to relabel x1, y1. And let's take a second to substitute. So try it out first. Try it on your own, see if you can get it. And then we'll check it in just a second. So this is our base. So we should at least have gotten this. Now remember, where we got m from, m was calculated up here. I didn't just pull it from thin air, we found it. And then I found my points here. Here's x1. Okay, and here's y1, negative 2. Now, some of you took it a step further and solved for y. You don't have to do that because this problem only wants point slope form. So substitution is all you need. So to simplify here, we have y minus negative 2, which just becomes y plus 2. Do we need to write this minus 0? No. So I'm going to cross it out, and it's just negative 4x, and you're done. Now, if you solve it for y, just know that that's slope-intercept form. So you want to make sure that you don't solve it for y because it wants point-slope form. Just always check, because especially on our state test, if it asks for one form and you give it in another, they're probably going to count it wrong, even if you did it right. So this is our final answer. We want to stop when we get slope or point slope form. Okay, do you want to try to do number 2 all by yourself and see where we're at? Step 1 is slope. Step 2 is you pick any point you want. Step 3 is to plug it in. Same steps. Okay, so try number 2. All right, so on this one, I went ahead and the way that I did it, we should have all got a slope of negative 1. Everybody should have gotten that answer. Then what I did was I broke it up into the 2 different points. So these are the 2 answers you could have. So this is the one if I had chosen 3, 5. This is the answer if I had chosen 6, 2. So let's go back to number 2. Or not number 2, for the first number 2. So 3, 5, we should get y minus 5 equals negative 1 parenthesis x minus 3. You don't have to distribute the negative 1. And I think that there is just a little confusion as to why this answer doesn't have parentheses. So the reason it doesn't have parentheses is right here, the minus 0. You don't have to write minus 0, which means the parentheses just go away. However, over here, we don't need to distribute the negative 1, so you will have a parenthesis in your answer because this number is not a 0. So the only time that you won't have parentheses is if the x1 value is 0. Okay? And then over here, 6, 2, we would get y minus 2 equals negative 1 parenthesis x minus 6. Again, you don't need to distribute that negative 1 because this is not a 0. You're going to just leave it as it is. Are there any questions on that problem, online or in person? Feel okay? Okay. So what we're going to do now is jump to page 16, which is practice. So let me check this time. Oh, we got plenty of time. Should we do paper? We'll do paper in person, and then I'll put them digital for online. Okay. All right. So in person, guys, we're going to work through page 16. I guess we could do it that way.
If they can see it.
Yeah, let's do it that way. All right, never mind. Online guys too. So let's start with page 16. Page 16 says identify the slope and the point of each equation. So this is exactly like the second example set that we did in class on your notes, the second example set, where we had the equation. You have to now write the slope and the point. Okay. Try page 16. And then when you're done with 16, let one of us check it, and then you'll go to 17. So all we're doing is identifying the slope and the point, and it is just like the second set of notes. So we did the second group. Okay. So online guys, just grab a piece of paper and write it down. We'll go over the answers here in just a minute. Take a second. We're just identifying. So look at the second note set, like the very second example group where it just says identify slope, identify the point. Okay, online guys, I'm going to adjust this really quick so I can write the answers down. There you go. So find the slope and find the point. Remember, it's the opposite of what it looks like.